Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the James Kennedy podcast. And I come bearing good news because, as I'm sure you all know by now, unless you've been living under a rock, that the man, Julian Assange, is finally free. Man, what a curveball that was. I didn't see that one coming at all. That was fast. As you know, I was campaigning for a long time for this, and we were actually gearing up for the beginning of the appeal process on July the 9th. And then I woke up this time last week, looked on the internet, and Julian Assange is free. Like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? First, I thought it was like one of those sick memes that goes around, but as the day went on, it was transpired that, okay, right, fucking hell, he's free. And by the end of the same day, the dude touched down on home turf in Australia, and he was officially a free man. And we all saw that footage that is, I think, going to become historic, iconic footage of him walking across the runway with his fist in the air and then hugging his wife Stella and his father, and the crowd's cheering. And it was like, wow, this is a real moment in history, man. And like when I went to bed last night, the dude was, as far as I was aware, still in Belmarsh Prison. It all turned around very, very quick. But I've been told since that this had been an option that was in the works for a long time. But for the rest of us, it just looked like something that had happened overnight. It was a real curveball. And I'm still adjusting to the fact that after like 14 years of house arrest, living in the Ecuadorian embassy, being in Belmarsh Prison, that just like the click of a finger, now Julian Assange is free. Is a free man. I mean, for a start, what amazing, incredible news for all of us that care and support this cause and have done for a long time. And what incredible news as well for Stella and the family who've been working tirelessly on this for such a long time now. I can't imagine what they are feeling right now. And also for Julian. I mean, the dude's been living in solitary confinement in Belmarsh Prison for 5 years. I mean, that is just a fucking travesty and a scandal that would be a stain and a shame on our times. When future generations look back and they'll be like, oh, okay, that's what they were doing back then, imprisoning one of the world's most awarded journalists for telling the truth about actual criminals. But after going through all of that and living in solitary confinement for 5 years, all of a sudden, in the space of a day, the dude is outside, he's on a plane, he's now, with his wife and his family. I just can't imagine how one's brain processes that. But I know it's going to take him a long time to, recover and recalibrate and figure things out and process and readjust to normal life again. But what wonderful, amazing news. This really is a victory of such importance, both, symbolically and literally. And there are so many people who've been working so hard on this for such a long time who really should be patting themselves on the back right now and raising a glass to Julian, to Stella, and to themselves. So we are going to be talking exclusively about this issue on this episode. We're going to be finding out exactly what happened this time last week, what this case means, and a reminder as to what started all of this madness in the first place. I'll be joined today by Kym Staton, calling in all the way from Australia. Kym is the writer and director and creator of the brilliant Julian Assange documentary called The Trustfall. The movie is an incredible deep dive into the whole history of this case, and it's also a brilliant reminder of all of the amazing and important work that Julian Assange has actually done. It's an insight into what happens when you challenge power, why we need Julian Assange and people like him more now than ever before. And it also features an amazing roster of awesome dudes such as Roger Waters, Tom Morello, and many, many more. It is a fascinating, maddening, inspiring, and moving documentary that I would strongly recommend everybody go and check out. It's due to be released in cinemas in the US. It's already had a successful run in cinemas in the UK, and it's received unanimously high praise in press the world over. I'm interested in talking to Kym not only about the incredible documentary and all things Julian Assange, but also how this latest news of Julian's sudden freedom is likely to affect the movie, and also to get Kym's thoughts on exactly what happened last week. So without further ado, please welcome to the podcast Mr. Kym Staton, calling in from Australia. Kym, how you doing? And also, how are you feeling, man, given the news that we've all recently received?
Feeling good. I mean, last week was just such a mind-blowing week of huge news, and from Natalia, my partner and co-producer of the film, some travel, because we happened to be in Canberra. We were on the way to Canberra actually to appear at a screening of The Trustfall at the National Film and Sound Archive, and just happened to be there at the right time. It was really kind of almost like serendipitous that we were actually there. Australia is a huge country, and with the amount of short notice that everyone sort of had that he was free, and then arriving in Canberra, like no chance we would have got down there. And so we just happened to be there, and it was incredible. And we just got back a couple of days ago, and I'm still processing this. It's a big adjustment actually, because it's been, for me personally, 3 years of full-time awareness building, education, activism on this cause, and I'm used to this sort of routine of putting out content on social media every day in this battle for his freedom, and now that's been won, and it's a mind-blowing thing what occurred, and still sort of digesting it.
Yeah, same for me, really, man. I mean, this has been a world issue now of such pressing importance for such a long time, and it has seemed very bleak for such a long time as well, in terms of the power that he and we have been up against with this cause. And then all of a sudden, overnight, he's literally a free man walking around. I mean, it's surreal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think Jennifer Robinson, his Australian lawyer, and Barry Pollack, his American lawyer, or one of a team of 100 lawyers or something. They did an interview last night on ABC television, which is one of the news channels here, and they were sort of going through all the interesting development from the legal side, at least, of how things wound up as quickly as they did. And my understanding is it was about maybe 9 months or even a year ago that this concept of a plea deal was sort of put out there. That's what Jennifer sort of explained, but it was because of, as you say, this plea deal. This appeal. I'm getting my ideas mixed up here. The appeal, which was about 6 weeks ago, which was granted that he could have leave to appeal on the grounds of, his free speech rights and whether he would be discriminated against as an Australian citizen being tried in the US, and so that was all set to go ahead. And Jennifer Robinson explained that it was because of that escalation that it was, that the US, the DOJ started to get an idea that, it wasn't going to be, that they might lose, this next round of the court hearing, and Assange might be actually completely, exonerated of all these charges. And so they were worried about that. And that's, as Jennifer Robinson explained, it was that concept that they might actually completely lose the case that impelled them to sort of bring that plea deal back up. And they've been waiting quite a while, radio silence from the US end, and so all that diplomacy was going on for quite some time, and the upcoming appeal was sort of the trigger for them to take action. I think it was really two things, though, because of course the US is coming up to the presidential election in November. I don't think Joe Biden wanted to have the most famous free speech advocate and most consequential journalist of the modern era arriving onto US shores in handcuffs leading up to the next election. He probably was concerned as well that if Trump won and then he got in to power again, and then he might pardon Assange and sort of take the credit. And so it was a combination of sort of things, the tide turning towards the Assange campaign.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously the most important thing now is that he is free after 5 years in solitary confinement. I mean, I can't even fathom how someone survives that, intact. But he looked pretty good, actually, coming off the plane. I was quite surprised, which is a really good sign. But he is now free to do whatever he wants to do, whether that's going to be continuing his mission or whether it's going to be just retiring completely. Obviously, we would all completely fucking respect that. But it's funny, isn't it, how these things go? I mean, it's not like it is in the movies where you have this big triumphant moment, where the trumpets are playing. The legal system is so fucking weird. It's just all of a sudden now, oh, he's out. Okay, cool. And what are your thoughts on the nature of the deal that was made? I mean, do you see it as a shame that he had to actually plead guilty to one of the counts of espionage? Does that set a bad precedent? Does that diminish the win in some ways? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is a pity that he had to plead guilty to one of the 18 counts. I sort of see it as a compromise that was massively in his favour, though. 7-1, literally one count out of the 18 counts that he had to plead guilty to, and it wasn't one of the worst counts on the indictment. It was one of conspiracy to obtain classified information and disseminate that information, which is basically a publishing charge, just one of the many publishing charges. It wasn't the computer intrusion charge. But as you say, like, the main thing is it's so important that he got free right now, because he could only survive so long in those conditions, extremely oppressive conditions, solitary 22 hours a day in a 6-meter square cell. It's enough to drive anyone mad. He'd had a mini stroke about a year ago, and things would have got worse in the US. He could have been up for a 175-year prison sentence. They would have tortured him. They would have kept him under what they call SAM, Special Administrative Measures, which is basically torture. It's really a life-saving result, this plea deal. It's to save his life, and it was wonderful to see that, despite all these health concerns, that he, walked to that private jet unassisted, and he seems to be quite well, considering. I'm sure there's a lot of health issues that he has to look into. I know that he had a nurse on board on the plane with him. No doubt he'll be getting a lot of attention on his medical side of things over the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one unfolds. And obviously, if Julian does return to public life, what new information he'll be able to give us about the journey that he's been on for the past decade or more. But what does this case represent to you more broadly speaking, not just focusing upon Julian's personal circumstances, but what does this case represent to you in terms of, press freedom and democracy? And what precedent does the outcome of this case set for other journalists around the world who are doing similar work to Julian and being punished in a similar way? What does it represent to you?
Yeah, it represents a lot of big things, and that's why the support has just grown and grown, and the US knew that support was growing all around the world, and from many different camps, people in very different opinions, both the right and left side of politics in Australia and in the US. As Stella Assange said at her speech in Sydney when she visited about 6 months ago, she said this campaign has brought together people that I perhaps wouldn't otherwise have a conversation with. It's about free speech. It's about press freedom. It's about world peace, journalism. And it's also, about the freedom movement broadly. I think I've really noticed in Australia here when the cinema run here kicked off with the Trust Fall, we had freedom fighters, as they're called, in massive support. It didn't take long for us to hear from those people, and they were so willing to help for no benefit of their own, just to get the word out about the film and come and be on the panels and just put it out and attract a lot of people to come and hear this story and understand this story, because they understand the connection between Assange, what he exposed, the work he's done, and the broader movement of all of our freedoms. They say that free speech is the first freedom because all our other human rights stem from that. If we can't say what we want, challenge governments, speak our mind, how can we have any other sort of human rights? How can we fight for any other cause? There was, wonderful speech that Kristen Harfinson, the current editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, at the beginning of the extradition trial in London, there was this huge protest down the street, and prior to that they had speeches with people like Tariq Ali and Roger Waters. And Kristen Harfinson, in that speech, at the end of the speech, he said, you will not be able to fight for any other cause. This is about the fundamentals. We put that in the Trustful film because I just thought it was such a powerful line. It hadn't occurred to me actually until I heard that if you're, for example, fighting for, animal rights or women's rights or human rights, whatever cause it is, how do you fight for that if you can't put out truthful information? So, this is a decade and a half that this has been going on, and Julian has been taking on this massive empire. It's really a David and Goliath story, and Julian is the brave David taking on a Goliath of an empire. The US is the biggest empire on the planet, probably the biggest empire that's ever existed. They have over 80 army bases around the world. They have interference or involvement in pretty much every country on the planet, and they're the big guys. And Julian, a single man with a wonderful team behind him, taking them on for nearly 15 years by putting out this shocking information through these leaks that occurred in 2010, 2011. Incredible stuff that was put out at that time that got the US really freaked out and really riled up and going after him with everything that they could muster.
100%, yeah, man. It's a fascinating story, and it's really interesting to be here at this moment in history when it's playing out, in front of our eyes, And I agree with you. It is a massive win for the reasons you've mentioned. And I think this is a perfect place to launch into talking about your incredible movie, The Trust Fall, because it's doing so well and it's just about to launch in cinemas in the States. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Releasing in cinemas in America on the 17th of July. Just before we get into the film, I just wanted to mention, because you said just then, it's so incredible to be here, to be living at this time in history, and we have this wonderful, incredibly courageous figure being Julian Assange. In my mind, on the level of Gandhi or Mandela, as far as his achievements for human rights and his courage to stand up against the hegemony. I just wanted to mention that my partner and I, we were just being amongst a very few number of people at the RAAF hangar in Canberra. Because we just happened to be down there, and we, figured out where he was going to land, and we're able to actually witness him get off the plane with our own eyes. And there was really only 50 people there, and 40 of them were news photographers. There was just maybe 10 reporters there. Funny story of how we actually happened to be there. Not just that we were down in Canberra, but on the day, on Tuesday when we heard the news, the first thing we said was, well, where is he going to land? It might be in Melbourne, because his father, John, and his brother, Gabriel, lived there, and he went to university there, the University of Melbourne. Could be Sydney, because that's the main airport in Australia. Could be somewhere near where his mother lives, which is, I won't say where that is, but, it could have been any of these places. But then, when Stella, I think, posted some flight details of his flight path of this private jet. And, we found out it was Canberra, and it's like, wow, we're here. And we actually had plans the next day, and we had to cancel them, which something I rarely do. I'm someone that likes to really stick to my plans and not muck people around. But on this rare occasion, I was going to be reading poetry from my poetry book, The Trust Fall and Other Poems, in a town called Bowral, south of Sydney, inland from Wollongong, the next day. And I had to cancel that, even though I was really excited to go there and share my poetry, do this reading. But of course they understood, because they're all Assange supporters. And so, now we realize, okay, we're going to book an Airbnb in Canberra. We're going to be here. Now we got to find out where exactly he's coming out at the airport. And so we thought we'll just lob in there to Canberra International Airport, and we'll just hang around in the international arrivals area. And if it's the right place, then the press photographers and reporters are just going to gather, and his supporters, and it'll be hundreds of people there. So we go there at about 3:00 in the afternoon. He was due to land at 7:30, and there's no one there. One reporter turned up maybe half an hour later, and they just did their little spiel for the news and then left. And then, we're sitting in a cafe, no one's there, and we start to say, this is not the place. It's not happening here. We're sitting in the cafe, and Natalia noticed that there was a lady next to us with a laptop. She was looking up Assange stuff, and we're like, okay, she might be a reporter or a photographer. And I got talking to her, and she was in the same situation. She's been sent there to take photos, but there's no one there. It doesn't look like it's going to happen there. We were all hanging around for about an hour and a half. It's getting closer to 7 p.m. He's due to land in only about an hour. Still don't know if it's the place. And then she said, "Oh, my top management, the office people just told me it's at the RAAF," which is like, we get on Google Maps. Oh, that's the other end of the airport. And so we drive around there at night. And there's all, of course, the boom gates and everything and all the big fences. And we were thinking we might have to jump the fence or something. But, there's all the reporters. We saw, dozens of cars and all the cameras out on tripods. And then, so we basically found the right place. And then we're all out there in the freezing cold. It's probably 0 degrees out Canberra night in winter. And saw the plane come down. And it was just extraordinary, just as I said, to witness it with your own eyes is really special. The plane just came in. They open the door. He pops his head out, does a big thumbs up, and then dances down pretty much dances down the tarmac and gives his dad a big hug and picks up Stella off her feet, and which everyone saw, of course. I mean, imagine how many people in the world watched that. And something that occurred to me, which I think is really fascinating, is I wonder if any single person on the planet in history has ever had that amount of support that Julian Assange has had in the last, week or year or so, but especially with this news, because, I mentioned Mandela and Gandhi, but, they lived before the time of social media. And I think it's quite fascinating in that, the internet and social media. Julian has this quote about the internet. I can't remember the exact wordings, but it's something like, the internet is the best thing that's ever happened to humanity. And he really was warning us, 15 years ago about the internet, that it would be co-opted by corporations and it could be really beneficial to us or not, depending on how it was used. And, so I think it's interesting to consider that it could have been easily 1 or 2 billion people saw that footage, understood, even if they don't understand the whole story of Assange, they at least know, they get the gist of it. He took them on, he exposed their crimes, he had to take a plea deal, and now he's free after 15 years of suffering. Just that simple story. And any decent person has to side with him, regardless of, the mainstream still trying to perpetuate all these garbage myths and lies about and smears about him.
Yeah, but man, I can't imagine. I mean, it's such a historic piece of footage now already, isn't it? Of him walking down the tarmac with his fist in the air, and then he kisses Stella and everything. And I mean, I've watched it several times, and you can just hear people screaming, "Thank you" and "Well done, Assange" and stuff like that.
That was us. That was all the people right next to us. All, I thought it was all journalists at first, but so many cheers and claps, and everyone was screaming out, and he walks right near the fence and just waves. He was so excited. He was so happy, not just because he'd arrived back home after all those, 15 years and he's free, but also just, I think, really pleased to see so many supporters there, even though they didn't put it out. They must have been told, don't put this out. But as WikiLeaks love to do, they leak something, just a little bit of information with that little flight log was enough to sort of help people figure out where they were going to land.
Yeah, well, I was following the flight. I think Stella put it out, didn't she? To say, like, until he's on Australian soil, follow the flight in case something happens, because we still didn't know at that point, like going to some remote island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or whatever on American territory. It's still, anything could happen, I guess, So that was doing the rounds on social media, and I was kind of following the flight and everything as well from over here in South Wales. And to just see the footage then confirm that he'd finally touched down, and to see him, waving to the crowd and everything was, I knew straight away. I was like, that is going to be a piece of historic footage. And you're exactly right, because I mean, like, every time that I went to the Royal Courts of Justice to do my thing outside, there was tons of press there, but I didn't notice any of the mainstream media. I didn't see any BBC, I didn't see any Guardian, and we were actively looking for them. And I checked the news reports on their websites and social media, nothing. But now he's free, you can't find anyone that doesn't support him. It's like, even the people that I used to talk to who'd never heard of him because he wasn't in the news, now they've all seen that footage, because as you rightly point out, it's social media. We've got that aspect now with this particular case as well on the internet. Everybody now knows who he is and what he's done, and you can't seem to find anyone now that doesn't support him. It's interesting how things go full circle. Yeah,
it is interesting how, for example, in Australia, ABC television covered it massively. They've been covering it for years, I guess. But, throwing in some of the old smears, he put lives at risk and stuff. I mean, they literally did that simultaneous with they did like a 1 hour live coverage, as news love to do, which is a good thing. But then they were throwing in these sort of old hackneyed smears throughout, which was really bizarre. And then you've had these, Murdoch-owned channel Sky News putting out absolute rubbish. Like, I saw some little clips out of Sky News with them saying, he put lives at risk, didn't redact, data dump, all this stuff. And then you had like The Age, the Australian newspapers, the print media putting out all the smears again over the last few days. So I was pretty shocked to see, the level that they stooped to with all of this disgusting criticism and just opinions. Who cares about their opinions? And these people, they either fail to see the big picture, they have some sort of vested interest, their family or something is involved in the security agencies or something. Or they're journalists that have been in it for, their whole life, and they're just simply jealous. They can't get over their own jealousy that, Julian's won like 3 dozen awards or something. It just makes them really cranky. And so they write all this disgusting stuff. But as you say, it's, the public, they know what's up. They can discern, a hero from a villain, and he can't be painted as a villain anymore. I think this is a progression in this whole sort of story, this whole setup of, independent media versus mainstream, the powerful elite with the industrial war complex, being taken on by a journalist that actually wants to bring about a more peaceful world through transparency. So that whole conflict between those parties that's gone on for all this time, now this is a turning point where he's free. To some degree, he's basically, most of the charges dropped. Only one token charge was agreed to. And so I think it'll be great to see if more of the public can look into this story and can, look past the individual and past this personality of Julian and the criticisms of him, but look at what they exposed. Look at that information. What's in the leaks? What's on the WikiLeaks website?
100%. Yeah, I don't think it's inconceivable that in our lifetime we're going to see Julian awarded some kind of Nobel Peace Prize or something like that. I think he's going to transition it just universally from being a kind of divisive figure or a villain. I think he's going to come to be known universally as a hero. I think that's going to happen in our lifetime. And very much like I said, use the Mandela analogy there. It's like at the time, Margaret Thatcher and several other world leaders declared him as a terrorist and stuff like that, and now he's like this global icon. I think the same is going to happen to Julian. I think it's going to happen in our lifetime. Yeah,
well, Mandela won a Nobel Prize, and he was actually a terrorist. whereas Julian, he was called a high-tech terrorist by Biden and others. I think, well, look, the Nobel Prize has become a bit corrupted over the last 10 years or so, but it would be nice if he won that award or some other award. But yeah, definitely the public opinion has swung massively in his favor. I think it just takes time for these rumors to sort of be debunked and for them to just be gradually weeded out. And that's something we did in the trust fall. We didn't shy away from sort of bringing up these smears, but we just basically brought them up and kicked them out of the park, and because they still perpetuate. And Julian, the Swedish smear, for example, he described that in an interview as the worst day of his life, seeing that sort of lie on the front page of newspapers. And so I think it's those sort of rumors and smears can't really last much longer, because anyone can go on, read up on it, or go on YouTube. Even has some really well done videos explaining, debunking all of those rumors. And so yeah, hopefully the public attention can shift over onto the important stuff.
I think it will, yeah. I think you're exactly right. And what is your gut feeling then on how this is going to play out? I mean, obviously, it's an impossible thing for anyone to say at this point. And obviously, all of us just want, whatever Julian needs and wants to be happy and healthy and enjoy the rest of his life. The man's done enough. And if he just wants to kick back and have a normal life with his family, then, nobody would begrudge him that. But that doesn't seem to fit with his personality type from what I know of it. So I'd love to ask you, what are your thoughts? What is your gut instinct on what you think is likely to play out in the future once Julian has, recovered and recharged? Do you think it's conceivable that he might actually come back to doing what he does best?
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating question, and I think every interview I've done since this momentous event, I've been asked that question. Of course, the first thing we hope is that he just does what he wants to do, and what feels right to him. First, he certainly needs to recover his health first, and that may take quite a while. My opinion, my feeling from what I've learnt about Julian over this last few years of intense research and making this film, I had a few interactions with people that gave me quite an insight into his sort of mission in life and his drive, his commitment to this cause that he's been fighting for much longer than WikiLeaks has been in existence. It started a lot earlier than that. I'll share a couple of anecdotes that will give you a bit of a picture and understand, my feelings on it. And so when we were in the production stage with the film, I had random people all the time, sending me photos and videos, donating footage, which was fantastic. And one day there was a lady from a town called Lismore, where Julian did live for some time as a child. It's in sort of northern New South Wales. And this woman used to work with his mother, Christine Assange, and they were working on a puppet show together, because Christine was an artist. And so Julian and this lady's son used to play together, and they would come to the house frequently. And one day this woman asked Julian, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, at the age of 8 years old, "I'm going to end corruption in the world." It's mind-blowing. I mean, never mind fireman or, professional tennis player or, whatever kids. I've never heard a kid say that. It's crazy, right? And I think that indicates that, he was sort of, without getting into woo-woo, it was like he was on a mission here right from that early age. And I know from reading interviews with his mother and talking to her over the phone that, he when he was around that age, his favorite word was "why," and her and Jeff Assange, which is sort of the guy that brought him up because John was not around. they didn't shy from that. So they used to take him door knocking to, advocate for dolphins and for rainforests and causes like that. So he's sort of brought up in an activist family, right? So that's the first thing. And then I guess the next one is, apart from, his courage and fortitude with going through this 15-year ordeal, it's in his, I think it's his 20s, if not his early 30s, where as a hacker, which was something he was into from his teens to his 20s, he was an ethical hacker. I should point out that he went to court at one stage for hacking, and the judge actually pointed out, they dropped the charge and said, I can see that you were just curious and looking around. So, yeah, but when he was, he had that skill, right? Because he was a computer genius. And at one stage, on two occasions, he helped the Victorian police track down pedophiles. So this is before the days of WikiLeaks. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the Julian, what his mission is. And he's always, another one is when I was talking to Suella Dreyfus, his long-term friend, and she's an encryption professor at the University of Melbourne. She was actually there at the hangar on Wednesday night, greeting him. She told me in the interview that when he was at university, he was horrified that the University of Melbourne were doing projects with the students which was about improving weapons, like making tanks that could nicely drive over the top of dead bodies and this sort of stuff. And, so these sort of little things give you a bit of an insight into Julian, his vision, his idea about the world. And that was the inspiration for creating WikiLeaks, was to, use technology, use encryption to speed up the dissemination of truth, to give us more access to leaks. So yeah, with all that in mind, one other anecdote is, when he was in the Embassy of Ecuador in London, and the big DNC, the diplomatic cables came out, and then, the US were determined to find out who was the source of these cables. They were so fired up about that. And he refused to give that away, even though Trump did put it on the table way back then. That's about 14 years ago, 13 years. It was on the table that he could be pardoned if he just gave up the source of the DNC leak, and he didn't do it. And he said, my principles are not for sale. So this is the Julian that I know. And so I can't imagine him not at some point going back to this mission of bringing about justice in the world. And either that or he becomes the next Prime Minister of Australia.
Oh, man, Jesus Christ, one can wish. Can you imagine?
He was in politics, He did dabble in politics. There was a WikiLeaks party for, a year or two back around that time. There was this wonderful video I saw once, which was Julian around that peak time of when they were so prominent with putting out those big leaks, 2011. He spoke, through a live stream to the Big Day Out festival, this massive festival in Australia, big music festival. He had so much popularity at that time because, he was putting out these huge drops, these truth bombs, and running for the Senate in Australia. Before everything, the US came down on him and started to try to destroy his character.
Well, everything you've just described there does not really suggest a man who's likely to spend the rest of his life, just with his feet up, just fucking chilling out, Unless, of course, that's what he wants to do, in which case, nobody would begrudge him. Like I said, the man has fucking done more than enough and paid the price for it. But if, at some point, however long that may take, if and when he's ready to come back and do his thing, in whatever form that may take, that would be a beautiful thing, because the world needs him now more than ever.
Yeah, well, I think, and it's interesting to consider that, in 2006, when WikiLeaks was created, an anonymous Dropbox that was encrypted that could give complete anonymity to the leaker was an innovation. It was an invention. Encryption had only been used by the elite, by the powerful. And he made it possible, for the serfs and the slaves to have access to this information. But, now it's old hat. All the big media outlets have an anonymous Dropbox. But, Julian is an innovator. He's brilliant. He hasn't lost his brilliance. You can see that from many examples over the last year or so. That witty letter to Prince Charles, or that, did you hear the one about how that Australian artist that did the portrait for the Archibald Prize, how he was able to sketch Julian in prison?
No, tell us, man.
That's a brilliant story, which, because I've been looking for signs for some time, because I'm so concerned about Julian's well-being, his mental state, that I'm looking for any little sign to show that he's still there, he's still really clever. And so, there was that really witty, funny letter that he wrote to Prince Charles. And then about, I don't know, 2 months or less, 6 weeks ago or something, there was an Australian portrait artist who wanted to paint him to enter the Archibald Prize. Now, one of the criteria to enter into that competition is you have to sketch your subject in person. And so that posed a problem, because you're not allowed to bring anything into Belmarsh Prison. You can't even bring a pencil and paper. And so Julian's brother Gabriel was talking to this artist, and they were trying to figure out how they could sketch him. And so, they came up with this plan. So there's a little shop in Belmarsh where visitors can buy snacks and lollies and treats. So you're allowed to bring money in, and you can go to the shop. And so they came up with this plan that he would use chocolate to sketch Julian. Melted chocolate on a $10 bill. And so this artist, I can't remember the artist's name, it might come to me later. This artist found out what brands of chocolate they're selling in Belmarsh, and he experiments to work out which chocolate has the best, qualities for sketching. And then he grows his fingernails nice and long so he can use it like a pencil. And then he checks into the prison with a £10 note in his pocket so that he can buy the chocolate and be left with a note change to sketch on. And then he sits there, melted chocolate in one hand, and sketches him with his long fingernail using the melted chocolate. And guess whose idea all of this was?
Let me guess.
That was Julian. So, when I heard that little anecdote, I went, yeah, Julian's still all there.
Yeah, brilliant.
He's still clever, and no doubt he's been through some really dark times in those situations. And he's had to be on medication. I'm not sure what the medication is for. And, there's a freedom fighter in the UK, you might have heard of, Tommy Robinson, who was actually in prison with Julian. I heard in an interview with Tommy Robinson that he felt that Julian was losing his mind. And we had, Niels Melzer and Paul Perez-Sales, another doctor that went and assessed Julian under the Istanbul Protocol a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, to see whether he was a victim of torture. And they did notice that his mind was not, functional as you would expect. So whether it was the medication or the isolation or a combination of all that and the stress, it was really playing on his mind. But it's just wonderful to think now that he's having some peace. He can go for a walk on a beach or in nature. He can spend time with his loved ones, and he can, I think, hopefully recover really quickly, because I think if a human being is in the right conditions with support around them, we have an amazing ability to recover, especially if we have missions in life and we're very creative and aspirational of what we want to do here on the earth.
Yeah, I think so, man. I mean, I can imagine it's going to take a bit of time. He's certainly got some readjustment to make. I mean, the mental and psychological toll of what he's been through is just unimaginable to me. I mean, that's going to take a long time to fully recover from, if that's even possible,
Yeah.
But then, as you said, he's clearly made of different stuff, and that flame, I'm sure, is still burning deep inside him. So who knows, man? Just maybe, we may see the re-arrival of Julian Assange back on the world stage doing his thing.
Yeah.
But if not, I'm sure we would all completely fucking understand that.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, Julian, no pressure at all. If you want to just come up to Byron Bay and I'll give you a surfing lesson and we can just relax, that's okay as well.
Well, there you go. That sounds pretty good to me, Julian. If you're listening, the offer is out, dimmer man. Right, well, we've got to talk about your movie, dude, because I can't keep you all day, and that's why we're here, right? Because The Trustfall is soon to hit cinemas across the United States. And I wanted to ask you, obviously, the movie is an incredible overview from start to finish of this entire crazy fucking case. Right from the start, right up until last year. But the problem is, there's now been this very recent curveball of the man that the whole documentary is about is now actually fucking free. So how is that going to change things for you? Obviously, you're in the middle of a promotional campaign right now for the movie. What twist does this add for you now, given that your movie is a campaign piece, essentially, arguing the case brilliantly for the release of Julian Assange, who's now free?
Yeah, well, we're going to make a little update to it before we do the digital release, which hasn't been set yet. It's quite a way off, I think, but we do plan to just at least update the timeline chapter, the little bit that has sort of a summary of sort of the whole 15 years that has gone past, and so we'll add a little conclusion to that to show that he was freed, and slightly change the wording of the narration, especially in the last chapter of the film. So we sort of got a plan for how to make it, because we want to turn it into a timeless piece that people can watch in 500 years, 1,000 years, and be horrified, like a horror movie for the future generations. But it's certainly reframed the film a little bit with, well, in a big way, really, with Julian free now. But I don't think it's lost its relevance, because people do need to understand this story. Documentaries are they're not usually for campaigns. It's been a campaign tool, but now it's a story, a lesson for people, so they can understand what happened, what they did to Julian, why, and also we can try to prevent it never happening again by building that awareness. But yeah, it's certainly reframed it a little bit. We're still attending some of our screenings around Australia, and it changes the way that I introduce the film and the things that I say and read before the film in my little presentation I do. I had to quickly adapt the way I do interviews, because I was so used to talking about, like, he's captive and he's in Belmarsh. I had to really be present and sort of change everything that I'm explaining to talk about. It was really surreal, the first bunch of interviews I did after he was freed, because now I'm talking in the past tense when he was in Belmarsh, and it's a pleasant problem to have. It's a good thing. So yeah, it's changed the context of the film, but it's important that we keep battling on for this issue, because Julian is just one of over 500 journalists that are in prison around the world for their work. David McBride is an Australian whistleblower who is the only person who's been jailed for what Australian Army did in Afghanistan. The only person jailed is the whistleblower, not the ones that committed the war crimes that he exposed. Assange needs a pardon, and I understand, once Julian recovers and the team sort of get back to work, that they'll be pushing for that pardon, and and then we got Snowden in exile in where is he? Japan or something? I'm not sure what country he's in, but he needs a pardon as well. And this issue of press freedom and our rights, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. America's still going to be going after journalists, and other countries just as much, if not more. And we're in a world in conflict where there's literally, these massive, gruesome conflicts going on, and most notably and awful is the genocide in Gaza, and we're just a world in strife. That's just the state of the world is horrifying, and Julian is aware of that, because people have written in letters in while he was in Belmarsh, he didn't have access to newspapers or the TV or radio even, but people wrote him letters and came and visited him and updated him on what was going on. And I remember reading a comment from him about his extreme concern for all the journalists. I think over 100 journalists have died in Gaza so far. So yeah, this story of Assange is just really the canary in the coal mine of a horrific state of the world.
100%, and that's a great point. Well made. I mean, the documentary is amazing, dude. You've done such a great job, and I hope you're really proud of it. I really enjoyed it. I've seen it twice, and I found it completely unputdownable, as they say, because it watches like a fucking action thriller, you know? I mean, this case has been going on such a long time now that I'd forgotten a lot of the fuckery that went on. And it is such a crazy story, which, as you rightfully said, really is the canary in the coal mine for journalists the world over, future and present, who want to put their head above the parapet and speak truth to power and keep the rest of us informed about what our governments do in our name and the punishments that you should receive should you do so. And you have documented all of that, not just Julian's personal journey and the scandalous campaign against him, but what the state and the powers that be can and will do to anyone who challenges their interests. So I really, really would recommend everybody to go to thetrustfall.org, find out where the film is screening near you, and go and watch it while you can, because not only is it a really, really important film on so many levels, as well as being a much needed reminder about exactly what went down with Julian Assange, but it's just a great fucking watch as well. It's so well put together, man. And, props to you and much respect to you for, all the work and efforts and time and resources that I know must have gone into it. So I hope you're really proud of it, man, because it is a really massive achievement.
Oh, thank you so much for your kind words, James, and really glad that it resonated with you. I'm a bit concerned you said you enjoyed it. I thought it was an awful thing to watch, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It is a tragic, shocking film. The last chapter, we attempt to inspire people and give us some motivation. That's one thing. Now, knowing that people are going to watch it, knowing that he did get free, and so it's no longer a free Assange; it's a we did free Assange. But I want to say to people, like, we freed him, but we are also responsible for what happened to him. I feel it sounds like a contentious thing to say, but like for myself, I was so late to this, to just even understanding what this was about. And when I did understand, I felt like I had to do something. But I've been very aware that I took, nearly a decade to have any involvement at all. And that's ultimately why this goes on. We can't blame governments or the law. We have to look at ourselves, and we have to look at, well, this happened on our watch, and we have to prevent it from happening again. And in order to understand the future, we have to understand the past.
100% bang on, man. And how the hell then does one get Roger Waters to feature in their movie, man? Do tell.
That was hard. We had a wish list of celebrity voices. Some of them knocked us back. And Roger Waters, he's so passionate about Julian. He's such a great campaigner, and but I must have tried for about 6 months trying to find some contact for him. I just, these people, of course, they don't put their email up on a website or anything. Funnily, it was, I kept persevering, and it was Nils Melzer, who was the Special Rapporteur on Torture, and he wrote the brilliant book, The Trial of Julian Assange. I was quite in contact with Nils through the film, because we had an animated extract of his book in the film. And I was just chatting with him one day and complaining that I'm having trouble reaching some of these people we'd like to narrate. And he said, oh, I've got Roger's phone number. I'll text him for you. And, and literally 3 minutes later, I had an email from Roger. Yeah, Nils said you want a narrator. Happy to do it.
No way.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
It's who... If you find the right person, it came about. And look, it was lovely that, most of the narrators donated their time, and they were so willing to help. And, these talented, well-known people that were behind Assange. See, there's another example. I had to say were. That's where you have to adjust. You know, they were. He had so much support from everywhere, and that's just testament to his incredible achievements.
Yeah, man, 100%. Well, what is next for you then, sir? Because I'm guessing you're going to be neck deep in this one for the foreseeable future. But do you even have any plans beyond this now? Is there another project in the pipeline? Do you have any ideas as to what the next project might be beyond this one? Or is this documentary going to dominate, and I'm pretty sure it probably will, the foreseeable future for you?
Yeah, I think we're going to be busy doing publicity to support the rest of the theatrical release. The film hasn't been in cinemas in US, Canada, or Europe yet, and let alone other countries. It's done, it's had a lot of success in cinema, which is a rare for a documentary. It's the most watched Australian documentary of the year so far. And so we want to keep pushing it out through the cinema. We don't want to rush into the digital space. But, once it goes out to digital, I think it's at that point, after over 3 years, I'll be able to, and Talia and I will be able to finally have a break. We've only had 1 week off in this whole time. And I'll probably, I'm not actually a career filmmaker. This is my first documentary. It might be the only one I make. It was, not only, I mean, I enjoyed it, and it certainly stretched me in many directions, and it was very satisfying to do and to produce. But my main passion is actually music. Like yourself, I've been a singer-songwriter. I've been a classical violinist before that, and my instruments have gathered dust over this whole time. I dropped everything to sort of go into bat for Julian, and so hopefully I can get back to my main passion quite soon.
Well, that is fucking crazy, dude. That this is your first documentary. I mean, that I did not know. I mean, this looks like the work of a seasoned professional movie maker. So props to you, brother. And you clearly have a talent for it. So I hope that, you will have the desire to make some more movies in the future, should you want to, And what you've done with this movie is a very, very important piece of the campaign and the telling of the story of this crazy moment in history, which I think is going to stand the test of time as a documentary piece. So much respect to you again for putting it together. It's a brilliant work. And but I hear you, man. You probably want to get back to making some music, doing what you love most and what you do best. And after everything you've done to help this campaign, I think you've earned it, bro, and you deserve it. And if you're ever over in South Wales, then let's have a jam and make some noise together, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. And look, I was happy to put things aside because this is so important, and just to make some difference in this campaign. Wonderful that Julian's free, and look forward to getting back to my music. Love to have a jam with you sometime. Good luck with your music, and good on you for taking time out of your music to be part of this campaign as well, especially with you've got a platform. You're a great help with sharing the film with our UK release recently, and thanks for taking the time and putting the effort into this successful campaign where we got Julian free.
Oh, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. And, of course, we're all happy to do it. And I think we've all got cause to celebrate, bro. This is a real massive win, I think, for people on the right side of history. Who would have thought Julian Assange is free? So huge props to you, brother, for everything you've done. If anyone wants to go and check out the movie, they really, really, really should. Please go to thetrustfall.org and find your local screening. You can also follow Kym on his socials, where you can get updates on the movie at the Trustfall Doc on Twitter and Instagram. Kym, thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us today. It's been a fascinating and insightful conversation. And thanks again for everything you've done to support this cause and make such an incredible piece of movie making. It really has been such an invaluable contribution. I wish you nothing but success with it and all the best moving forward with your music and everything else that you do in the future. I'm excited to follow what comes next.
Likewise, I enjoyed the discussion. Thanks for the coverage. Thanks for your advocacy, and good luck with everything.
You're a gentleman. Thank you, Kym. Speak to you soon, brother. Take care, man.
Take care.
See you, bro.
Cheers, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put it together for Mr. Kym Staton, creator of the Trust Fall documentary, which all of you need to rush out right away and watch if you know what is good for you. One more plug, it is at the trustfall.org website where you can check out all of the screenings near you, and you can also get more info on Kym's socials on Twitter and Instagram at the Trustfall Doc. So get over there and go and show Kym some love. And I just want to take a second to let this properly sink in. Julian Assange is a free man right now. He's free. It hasn't really sunk in the weight of what that actually means. You know, we don't get a lot of good news these days, you know, with the horrific genocide happening in Gaza, the endless stream of bad news from our useless, corrupt politicians, the cost of living crisis, inflation, yada, yada, yada. You don't need me to tell you, right? So we need to celebrate and acknowledge our wins when they happen, because they don't happen that often. And this one is a biggie. I remember Julian's wife Stella told me that this is not a legal battle, this is a political and a cultural battle. She told me that this is going to be won by people all around the world making lots and lots of noise about it. So this is a win that should be celebrated by every single person that got involved with this campaign and amplified the cause and made noise about it. And it just goes to show that when we do that, we can win. This is a case of one man against the entire American empire. And here he is, as of now, walking around his homeland in the sunshine with his wife and kids, a free man. So take stock, people. Change can happen. Good news can happen. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Kym. I certainly did. And if you want to hear more of these conversations with amazing guests every week, you know what you got to do. You got to subscribe to the goddamn podcast. Please give me a follow or a subscription or whatever you got to do on whatever platform you listen to this thing on. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And if you give me a star rating or a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever else, it would really, really help. This shit don't cost you any money to listen to. And it would really, really help me out if you could just get clicking those buttons so that I can keep doing this thing. In the meantime, you know what I'm going to say, because I say it every single week. Take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. And I will see you next time. Have a great week, guys.